Ooh. Hello, Breakfast Club. Hypothetically, I'm talking to you guys, but I never quite know. I tried to get my YouTube set up on my laptop, which I think you guys can probably see the corner of right there. However, I'm in my garage, and so the signal here is 0 to one tiny little bar, and I don't think that's going to work, at least not for this round. I have so many things to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so many things to do, and so I wanted to not miss this week. So I guess I decided to go live. That way I can talk to you guys as best I can without being able to see this, but I can chat at you while I'm working on these projects that I have to consistently keep on doing. And this is basically what has been eating up. Oh, I don't have a paintbrush. Really? A paintbrush in the house? Man, gotta be kidding me. Could have sworn I put that thing in my pocket. Here, haha, look. I totally did. Anyway, so these are actually going to be signposts that, tell you Mermaid Cove is this way, and, Tea Party that way, Dwarven Forge the other way, for my festival. And I need to paint them so that in a couple of weeks, when we get back out to the event location, then we can start figuring out. I need to paint them so that we can letter them, and I don't really know which way to letter them until I get out there and map that forest trail. Otherwise it's gonna be, this way for things. So anywho, I've got all these different colored paints, and I don't know what color I want to start with. I guess so I've got 11. So maybe I'll just go right down the color line. Let's see. I don't know how much red is actually in there. This is my only orange. Do I have another orange? I do. Yeah, super bright orange. Anywho, so this week was an interesting week amongst all of the pink. Yay. Amongst all the crazy work that I've been doing. As usual, I have various thoughts that occur to me late into the hours, and so I post things on Facebook to get people's thoughts on the random things that go through my head, and this week had some interesting doozies in it, I guess that's the way to put it. So topic number 1 that is the shortest and the easiest is ghosting. Now, I've never done online dating, but I have a lot of friends that do, and I frequently hear them talk about ghosting, which is where you set up to meet somebody at some place, a coffee shop or whatever, and instead of showing up, they ditch out. They don't tell you they're going to ditch out, and then if you try to contact them, you come to discover rather abruptly that they have blocked you and unfriended you and whatever. All of this just because I guess they made a decision in their head that this was the appropriate way to handle not actually wanting to go on a date with somebody. If you do this to people, you're a complete dick. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You are a dick, and you are too immature and too cowardly to be in any kind of a meaningful relationship. Seriously. If you can't manage to just say to somebody, I'd really rather decline, but thanks for the whatevers, right? So long, and thanks for all the fish, so that they don't waste their time and their money and a bunch of whatever else. Who knows how that's impacting their plans for them to, show up and try to make the acquaintance, right? If you can't even muster the cojones to just say to somebody, I changed my mind, I'm really sorry, I don't think it's a wise idea to go forward, I'm pretty sure you couldn't battle a church mouse in a discussion. It's just you clearly lack all skills to be able to communicate yourself in a mature manner. So get out of the dating pool. Man, it almost makes me wish that you could go onto people's online profiles the way that you can with businesses, right? And then leave a review and put ghoster on it so that other people know when they try to hook up with somebody that person will possibly ghost out on them. Because it really is such a very aggravating and just, I don't know, just completely rude thing to do to somebody. Okay, so now I have to find, I don't have any of my cutting materials on me. Maybe I've got this. I don't want to paint on top of this. Oh, this one might be small enough. Let's see. I want to paint on top of this tabletop. Get it covered in paint. Let's see. That ought to do the trick. That's sticky, so I can stick it there. Hold it in place. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I need one more color. One more color. Well, I've kind of got this burnt metallic orange. I don't really like it though. And kind of got Christmas red, pale, kind of a creamy white. And then this sort of color. I'll put that down there. Guess that'll go there. Here we go. On to painting time. Man, is that really... The color is plaid, honestly. Oh, metallic garnet red. Okay, good. So, topic number 2. I made this post on my Facebook earlier this week. I don't know the time, some days ago, a few days ago, whatever. Time kind of takes on its own life in my world, but the topic was me talking about this experience that I had a couple weekends ago where I had been out at the festival site working all day on painting what's going to be the new front wall, and I went into town at the end of the day. Man, I should have did bring water. Let's just see if I can't water that down a tiny little bit. Make it go a little further. Went into town at the end of the day because I was just going to end up sleeping on site in my car and getting up the next day and working some more. Go into town, meet up with a bunch of people at the bar, totally randomly, don't know these people, but they were camping out nearby at a campground that I didn't know existed. So they said, hey, do you want to come back to our campground for drinks and whatevers, just bonfire and such. And I said, hey, that sounds awesome. So I do. So I go back to the campground and I just decide I'm going to sleep in my car there instead of on site where I was. Overall, it was a much more awesome evening. There was company, people to talk to, had a little whiskey and, whiskey and Coke and a bonfire, good music. It was good. It was a fun evening overall. But during the course of this evening, I had made this comment to the old guy that invited me back. And I say old, but by old I mean 63. That's how old he was, because he told us. So old relative to me, I suppose. And he made some comment about, being a beautiful woman or whatever. And I left because I literally hadn't showered. I am covered in dirt and grime and paint and all of these things. I know I can definitely get prettier, right? Nobody comes in off the field, as it were, and it's like, yeah, I'm ready to go, looking good. But he makes this comment or whatever. And I left, and I said, well, if you think I'm good looking now, you might want to have your eyes checked, right? So I'm making light of the fact that I pretty much totally need a bath. And he pauses, and this becomes some sort of moment for him to give me this this life lesson wisdom session, right? How do you feel about yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? Like, what? Yes, I feel fine about myself. Why are you asking me this, right? Because, in his head, me making a joke about not looking tip top or whatever is somehow in his mind me being having self-confidence issues. So whatever. I just let him talk at me for a while, telling me all about life and how I don't need to worry about what anybody else says, yada yada yada. And at the end of this, he kind of goes off on this little tangent about how, oh, blah blah blah, and respecting women and this, that, and the other. So I'm just gonna set this over here so it can dry. Okay. So anyway, I'm recounting this story on my Facebook, and I sort of made this snatty little comment there at the end saying, hey, you don't have to tell me how much you respect women. You can just skip the telling and get straight to the doing, right? I mean, who needs to hear over and over, right? I mean, if you do, then you just do, and that will be apparent in your actions, and you don't have to repeatedly say it to people. They will just know. Well, so anywho, this resulted in this conversation on my Facebook, right, where somebody chimes in to say, well, respect has different meanings in different cultures, and what could be respectful to one isn't respectful to another, and I say, in response to this buffoonery, that, there are some pretty basic societal standards here in America where we all are largely having this conversation and it's relative and taking place, not in Japan or wherever the hell else, right? I mean, who cares? We're not living in Japan. Nobody around here abides by predominant Japanese cultural respectful norms, right? But we all have some good idea of what respect is in our culture, right? You don't cut in line when you go to the grocery store because you're in a hurry. You don't yell at people. You don't swear at people. I mean, you might do that, but if you do, we certainly wouldn't classify that as a method of respectful behavior, right? Those things happen when people specifically want to be insulting one another, not when they're trying to show respect for each other. And, so, my point that I was making here was that there are norms for this, right? For how we all engage with one another. And if there wasn't, we wouldn't even be able to function, right? We would all just be running around punching each other in the face constantly or something to that effect, right? But we all generally agree that, physical assault, definitely not a sign of respect for another person, right? Things like that, right? And, screaming at one another and whatever, right? Now, obviously, respect gets more refined and varied, in different cultures. Nobody's arguing that isn't the case, right? But the point was that we all have a basic idea of at least the minimums of respect, right? Saying please and thank you, for example. In order to just function on a day-to-day basis, right? We all have to have some level of respect for the people around us that we can even function. And man, this person just went to lengths over 3 days trying to refute this, as some kind of an excuse for bad behavior, going so far as to say, well, that I had made the comment that if you seriously don't think that you have any idea, you have no no fundamental basics of respect at all, then you are essentially announcing yourself as, a walking, talking, mental, social, physical Tourette's syndrome. You just bumble around through society, doing whatever you want and abusing people however you want, because you have zero idea of when it's okay to, if ever, to do such things, to behave in that way, right? Which is such an absurd notion, right? People that are like that, we don't allow them to wander around and shove people and hit people and just be completely belligerent. I mean, vagrants, maybe, people that are suffering from some kind of mental illness and literally live on the street, maybe those people, right? But, if you're a functioning adult, at least some standard of these things. And this person's argument is tantamount to saying that no, they don't have any of those. And I gave this example. I said, well, maybe by your standards, I'm not actually like that, because if people are blocking the sidewalk because they're going slow, I'll shove right by them. Right? And so they say this, and they justify this. I mean, it was shocking. They justify this comment by saying, because those people are committing the first offense of rudeness and disrespect by going slow, whatever the arbitrary definition of going slow is, on the sidewalk, and it makes the person who was writing this post angry. And therefore this person feels justified in shoving their way past somebody because they are being disrespected by the slow person who's just probably going at their own pace. I was so stunned by this utterly ridiculous argument. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. I said, look, if you have the ability to perceive yourself as being disrespected against by a random person going slower than you want them to be going when you're trying to get past, that means that you have some idea of what respect is, period. Otherwise, you never would feel disrespected as a person because you wouldn't have any idea of what it is or what it means. That's what it means to have zero societal understanding, because they change all the time from culture to culture. So how do you know? Well, obviously you have some idea, otherwise you yourself wouldn't ever feel disrespected. Dagnabbit, I have never seen somebody try so hard, I think, in my life to justify, to give themselves what they must think of in their own little head, a sort of plausible deniability. Oh, bad, man. My gold paint. This plausible deniability for crappy behavior towards other people. I didn't know that was disrespectful. But obviously you have some sort of, baseline, right? So don't pretend that you have zero idea. God, it was so aggravating and insincere. I don't know, I couldn't believe it. And then, so, back to, I don't know, I think I've kind of had it up to the top of my little head with people who go out of their way, to find reasons that crappy behavior or straight up, behavior that is assaulting, right? People looking for ways to justify this shit. And it ticks me off, right? Because the type of mindset that does that, that paintbrush is looking pretty dead, I guess. I don't know. The type of person that does that, the type of mindset that looks for this excuse to justify their super crappy, assaulting, generally offensive behavior, that's the type of person that only follows laws and rules because they fear reprisal. They're not doing it because they're a good person. They're doing it because they're afraid that somebody's going to come and get them in trouble, right? And it's kind of terrifying. As long as you feel justified in your own head, right, that you have somehow been wronged first, it's okay to take up whatever you deem is an appropriate response, right? And I think we all pretty much know, being that it's the internet age these days and everybody goes zero to nuclear at the drop of a hat, that this is how much more terrible it is that people do and think this way. Oh, I was wronged, and this is, and it comes back to this stupid law of the jungle, right? Yeah, that's great. Law of the jungle is great if we're living in the zombie apocalypse, where the only way to enforce law is, at the end of your fist, right? Is at the tip of the gun. Well, we're not in that society, right? I mean, that is what we mean when we say civilization, right? We mean that we've got laws and stuff. It doesn't matter if you think that they're good or whatever. You're a part of this society. You live here, and you're beholden to that. Otherwise, you go to jail, hopefully. It's where you deserve to be, because you're an ingrate thinker and would do terrible things to people if you even remotely felt justified in doing so. And I don't know, God, it was a week of, I'm reminded now of why I freaking dislike humanity so much sometimes. Because, God, woof. I wish I could see if anybody was talking, but my computer has still failed to load. It says I have one bar, but it's not enough to apparently make YouTube load. So I'm just kind of talking at you guys while I do this. I have about, actually I don't know what time it is. I have about till 7 o'clock or so to, man, oh, my water is kind of orangish. I have about till 7 o'clock. Before I have to shut this thing down and leave and go to Taco Tuesday. So thank you everybody who's kind of hanging out and listening with me. I'm gonna try to find a way, actually, because I really like doing this. I find that I often like this better than making videos, because I like the interactivity of being able to read what people are saying in the chat, even though that's not a thing I can do at this exact moment. However, the house is not that far away, and so I might actually look into an extender or a signal booster. So that I can talk to people while I'm working on projects out here, because I have quite a few more projects coming up. So the festival is at the end of June, and these are my signs that I'm making for the pathways and the trails. This is the first year I'm going to be out at this location, so I have to, there are just a lot of little things to do. I have my cool Jenga set. Check this out. I painted this giant Jenga set, right? Each one of those Jengas has written on it some silly activity to do. So when you draw the Jenga piece, then you have to do whatever it says on it. That's gonna be good times. Woohoo! So I'm pretty excited for that. And then I have my chessboard down here. Like, these are the things that I've been doing the past few weeks while I've been missing my Breakfast Club. So that was this ugly old table that I don't know, it was this ugly thing. And I sanded off the entire top of it, and then I hand painted that chessboard on there, and then I burned, that's wood burning, all the way around the edges and in the four corners and everything. Winter, spring, summer. Well, you probably can't see it too well from here, but I can't get closer either because I'm holding a bunch of crap in my hands. So yeah. Anywho, that's where I've been, what I've been working on, and I just kind of will get to working, and then it's Taco Tuesday, always on Tuesdays, and I'm like, oh my god, I've been working all day, and I rush over to my friend's house. We have Taco Tuesday, and then of course by the time that's done, you know, it's midnight, and then I have lost track of my whole day. So I like doing this because I think it's kind of a better way for me to merge the best of both worlds. I kind of had this other conversation, you know, on my Facebook about the pirating crowd at Ren fairs and whatnot, because man, I've just about had it with the pirates this year. Okay. Normally, I mean, I have a lot of pirate friends and people that play pirates and whatnot, and normally I don't have much trouble with them, but boy, it seems like in the last year they really have become a different animal, and not even the last year, just the last few years. I avoid going into taverns where there's too many pirate players, people of that sort, because they're like, ha ha ha, we're here for wenching, nee, 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 nee. And well, as it turns out, I really don't want your gross, grody, grubby hands grabbing on me without my permission. Thanks. I've got a personal space. I'd like to keep it, and it's immensely troublesome that anybody would think that my mere presence in a place is some kind of tacit permission for them to just go ahead and do whatever they want. Hey, you know, I mean, I try to imagine this scenario reversed, right? Like, how would dudes feel if they went into the tavern at Ren Fair? Ugh. Oh my god, you guys probably can't even see this. Haha, it's so gross. It's like a big, long, loogie oogie boogie of green paint. But you know what? How would dudes feel if they went into the tavern, right? And all of a sudden, some gay guy is just rubbing his crotch right up against the crack of your butt, right? I mean, would you be like, oh, ha ha ha, we're in the tavern, that's what we're here for, yeah, because something tells me that, you know, that probably wouldn't be the reaction to take place right there. Yet somehow it's okay to, you know, be grabbing women around the waist and pulling them into your lap, and worse, you know, grabbing their butt as they walk by, or their boobs or whatever. And I just, man, somebody's presence. Well, you were there, and that's just what the atmosphere is like. That argument is the same damn argument of, oh, she was wearing a short skirt and red lipstick, Your Honor. She obviously wanted it, right? That is exactly the same argument. And oh my god, anybody that even remotely agrees with that, goodbye. That's a deal breaker, right? Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of. It's just you never hear women say that. He wanted it. It should kind of be a giveaway, you know, that from which direction this issue stems. You know, so speaking of deal breakers, so this buddy of mine and I were talking, and so much of this week, oh, dagnabbit, there's that gross. Okay, now it's out. We were talking earlier this week about dating, and you know. I'm sorry. Is it working hard? I am. That's my neighbor. we were talking about what are deal breakers in dating, right? And I was trying to explain that I have very, very few specific deal breakers. For example, if your halitosis precedes you by 3 feet, I'm probably not going to be very interested in pursuing anything further. If you look like you haven't brushed your teeth in the last 30 years, probably not going to be terribly interested in pursuing anything further. Because, but you know, those are the biggest deterrents that I have that I just would name as a straight up hard line, right? Because other than that, I don't look for, you know, oh, this person did this one thing. I look for a pattern of behavior, a type of actions that indicate a type of thinking or a method, way of thinking, right? That while it's not 100%, and this is why you look for a pattern of behavior, because you want several examples. You don't just want to take one action that somebody has taken, pull it out of context, and then extrapolate it over into this whole decision. So you kind of want to watch people, you know, for a while, and see what their modus operandi is. See how, you know, when they talk, how do they talk, right? This was one of my examples. Do they use you language or I language? Because I'm pretty much a fan of I language. If the person that I'm talking to is constantly saying things, hey, I'm online here.
Oh, okay.
If they're constantly saying things to me, where they say things like, well, you probably think this, and you probably think that, and you this, and you that, and yada, 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 that's not a very good sign. That kind of puts flags in my head, and that this is how this person also will deal with conflict, right? Any type of disagreement or place where you might butt heads is going to be you, and it will never be about them. And, you know, frankly, I get to decide about me, and you get to decide about you, right? And so that type of language is one thing that I look for, right? I want you to tell me your thoughts and your opinions for yourself, right? And then I will do the same. And so that's kind of this thing. But, you know, again, all of these, you just sort of, you have to watch people, right? A lot of stuff comes along with it. I mean, it's sort of the difference between passive people and aggressive people is you language and I language. You know, one of them is a big responsibility taker. The other one is a big responsibility assigner. And, you know, I tend to be pretty big on personal responsibility. You know, and I think that, okay, so this is cool. What time is it? My laptop says it's 5:34, but man, that doesn't seem like it could be right. You know, Walmart was such a fail this afternoon. My God, that place. The only thing it doesn't fail at is disappointing me on a consistent basis. I bought a jigsaw on Saturday. I had to get out and cut these boards that I had painted a couple weekends ago. So I go out and I buy, man, I looked everywhere. I had one. A friend of mine lent me a jigsaw, said, it'll need a new blade though. I go to Home Depot, I go to Sears, I go to Walmart. Not one of these places has a damn blade for that jigsaw. Holy crap. I'm very irritated by this, right? So I go back to Sears where I find a jigsaw, and the jigsaw looks like it's a decent price. You know, they're not $80 or higher. They've got this one for $35 or something like that. This seems like a pretty good price for a Craftsman jigsaw. I go to get it, out of stock. Oh my God. Great. So out of stock, and they don't have the blade that I'm looking for. So, okay, so back over to Walmart, which doesn't have a blade, but they do have a jigsaw, and they have one for $20. I think, this'll work fine for what I need to do for this weekend. Even though I really wanted that Craftsman one, this one was, I can't even remember the brand. But if I could remember the brand right now, I would tell you guys, don't ever buy it. It was some kind of heavy duty or power strength, or God, I can't even remember. Oh my God, it was terrible. So anyway, I buy this jigsaw. I get it down 3 hours away from where I live is where my event location is, right? So obviously by the time I get down there, it's not like I'm gonna turn around and jaunty jaunt back home if something goes wrong or is bad. Frickin' jigsaw comes out of the box bent. The thing, you stick the blade down in there, the thing holds that blade straight, and it is just slightly bent. So everything I cut, instead of having a straight edge, has this slightly angled edge. But I can't take it back because I'm in the middle of nowhere, 3 hours away from where I bought it. 30 minutes away from the next nearest Walmart. So I just have to use this freaking thing. So I'm going to take it back today. I get there, I go to Walmart, take it back. They're out. They don't have any. I bought the last one. I can't return it. I mean, I can. They have one in stock. So now I'm going to have to go through all these hoops, going on their website, finding one, ordering it to the store, then going in and taking, and the lady's like, well, we can return your money. Well, I don't want my money back. I want a damn jigsaw. Lord. So that was super fun. I don't know where I was going with that. I just kind of sidetracked on you guys, didn't I? Sorry about that. I don't necessarily think that I'm gonna have to use it again here anytime in the immediate future, but is a tool, right? And so tools pretty much last forever if you get good ones. But I think I've just become convinced at this point, man, does not look like a good Mermaid Cove sign. Convinced at this point that, what is it? Who am I thinking of? Craftsman is obviously good, but there's another brand out there that is generally pretty good. Man, this brand just ticked me off though. Whew. And I hurt my wrist really bad. I was lifting these heavy boards. I doubt you guys can see it, but I've got this big scrape right here and a bruise. It started bruising today. All of this hurts super bad. And I twisted my wrist here. What a rough weekend doing all that by myself. Boo. So, see this? Check it out. That is not the dude that was trying to say, well, respect differs from culture to culture. No, that's not Earl. We don't need to say goodbye to him. He's not going to be stuffed in the trunk and go for a ride. That is actually an enormous alligator. See his tail? Can you see his tail? I don't know if it's bright enough. Anywho, this is my crocodile. Let me see if I can show you. He's so cool. It's actually let's see, I don't know how far in there he is. Haha, maybe, okay. You can kind of see his nose right there. So this is my crocodile, and he's gonna be my TikTok croc. He's actually a two-man puppet. You crawl inside this bodily, and then that right there, those are the arm legs right there. So you put your arms into those, and then your body is inside the alligator, and then you flop around with the arms. I bought this. It was a school theater used it for a play, and I thought, oh my God, this will go so good in the Lost Boys Mermaid Lagoon area. And I didn't have the ability last year, but I do now this year. So I'm going to actually build a cage for him, probably out of wood, not dissimilar to that. And he'll stand upright like this so that you can see his mouth. And I'm going to open his mouth and put a clock, like, a clock face, something you can get at like Pier 1 Imports, or actually I'll look at the Goodwill first because Pier 1 Imports will be expensive no matter what. So, but yeah, so that's that. This here, so that's my giant bluebell, and we ring the bluebell at the opening parade to start the festival, because there's a little bit of fairy lore that says when the bluebells ring, the fairies are called to convention. So the first year And I go over there and pick it up and show you guys, but I can't because, well, I guess I can. I can unplug this for a minute and show you. I actually have to fix it because the kid that was did it so hard that he broke the bell out of the shepherd's hook that I had it on. So, but it's a ship's bell and the big one, and then there's the little one right there. And yeah, like this. Oh, that hurt my wrist. Oh, I felt my wrist pop. See, so this is the blue bell, and see, it's crooked there because that kid broke it. So, anywho, and then that's the little one. So that's pretty cool. And then this mermaid shell. So this was a treasure sandbox. It was filled with a bunch of, well, originally one of my mermaids used it for her clambulance, which is what we call, it was opened up and she would sit inside of it, sit on one side and have her fin on the other side, and then she would be towed around the festival, and we called it the clambulance because she's a mermaid out of water. And so that's what that's what helped keep her moist. It was a very bad inside joke and very adult oriented, but it was funny as heck. So anywho, she upgraded, and so I took the old one off her hands, and then we made it into a treasure thing. We filled it with sand and all kinds of treasure, and the kids could scoop out of there. They could sift in the sand and then get treasure. So this here in the back corner, which probably doesn't look like much right now because you're kind of looking at the underside. Let me see. This is the dragon. Let's see if we can see his face there a little bit. This is Peril Ka, and this is an enormous human-sized dragon puppet. There's his legs right there. They're obviously unattached to him right now. I'm currently standing in his body. This frame right here, you walk into the frame like this. His head sits right here, and then you can control his eyes and mouth and everything from right inside of here. So this is a new one for the festival this year, and so I have to paint. Oh, I broke off another one of these. They're foam, and this was the worst idea. I think all of them but 2 or 3 have broken off. So I'm saving them up here. Meh. Yeah, my garage is filled with a TikTok crocodile, a bluebell, a mermaid shell, and a dragon. I have an awesome garage and a giant Jenga set. Woohoo! Okay, so back to what I was doing. Let's see. Oh, it is. It's only 5:43. All right. So, let's see. Set this back up. Man, my paintbrush probably just dried out right now. Oh Lord. So anywho, the next. I don't know what order I'm gonna do the things in yet, but I have to make a frame for my TikTok crocodile so that I can stand him up. I'm not really sure how. I'm probably gonna have to look up some DIYs and maybe come up with some good ideas for that. You know, because, well, good plywood is expensive, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this top tier thing. He's a prop, you know, he doesn't do anything, he just is there for looks. We only love you for your looks, TikTok croc. So he's just there for looks, and I was thinking maybe I could just get the boards enough to do a cubicle frame, and then get a bunch of pallets, pallets they ship stuff on. Tear those apart, and I'm pretty sure that's actually what I'm painting right now currently. I've had these since year 1, I think, year 1 or year 2, and I just haven't had a reason for them. But hey, let's do that thing while we've got the wood, and now here I am. So, but I was thinking, maybe I could get those wood like this, that's the just cheap kind, because it's only going to hold that guy up, right? So here I'll have this thing. Ow! Oof. Slipped out of my eye. 1, 2, right? And then you've got your 1 down here, and your 1 down here, and your 2 going across the top. right? And then I was thinking, after that, I could get some more of these, and then I guess I probably should have done this like this way, so you guys could better. So you know, you got your board down here and your board down here, and then get some of these and do this diagonal business, right, like this. So it sort of has that X look like you see in big warehouse shipments in movies. You know, you see the big wooden crate that has the X on it, even though it's usually, the crate is usually boarded up all the way around and has X. Obviously, I don't want him to be boarded because you want to be able to see the TikTok crocodile inside. But that's kind of my idea there. And then I want to build another, like I want to take two of these. This is my plan right now for the Mermaid Cove. But this might change because I actually there's a rock that's in the bend of the creek that is at the festival site, and it's an enormous rock. You can walk right out on it, and I thought I should just set my mermaid right on that rock, and that will be Mermaid Cove, because you can swim in the little creek, so people can go out there, and it's kind of a calm little bend there. But that aside, I was thinking I would take two of these like this, right, and just make this frame, and then over the top of this frame I can hang or drape some kind of long cloth material, and because there's space back here, I can put lighting behind here so it would sparkle and light. So I don't know, I haven't really wholly decided how I'm going to do either of these two projects yet, but I need to do something with them, not before this weekend but before the next weekend, because I have to go back down to the site in a couple of weekends and finish up working on the front hedge wall. It needs to be painted and marked, you know, just have all the little final things added to it. I was thinking, so the front hedge wall, you know, it's meant to go like this, and I spent all weekend with that jigsaw, right? I spent cutting it into these points, right? So what I did was I took if you were to imagine here, so I cut out almost like a fang or a tooth shape like this, right? So this was 9 feet long, almost 9 feet long, and I divided it up. It was actually like 8 feet 8 inches, right? So it was 1 foot 1 inch segments I divided up into. So in segment number 2, I kind of did this fang thing. Cut that out with the jigsaw, took it, hinged it onto the top, right? So now it's hinged over here. You've got this cut out here and this kind of, right? So when you do that, and then I've got 100 feet of wood, so it looks, you know, like the backdrop of what's going to become a thorny hedge, right? Because this is a very fairy tale type thing, right? You know, Sleeping Beauty, right? The prince has to fight through the thorny hedge, and what's the one that had Angelina Jolie in it recently? I don't know. The thorny hedge is in all kinds of fairy tales, and people always get entangled in it, caught in it, they die in it. It's kind of symbolic, actually, of a mental trial or perseverance, or some kind of personal trial or perseverance. Making it through is, you know, vanquishing it. And so anywho, so instead of making a rock wall for the front of my festival, I decided I wanted to go with a thorny hedge, because it's, I don't know, it's more fantastic, it's more fairy, it's non-standard. Everybody has a freaking rock wall. Well, I don't want it to be just like everybody, right? So, yeah, so that was different. And so, anywho, in order to kind of give it this, the impression, right? Because obviously my public can't be getting hurt by having it be actually sharp. You know, so to give the impression, though, that it's thorny, right, I was looking at things I could do, and I thought, well, maybe I could get rubber barbed wire, and then all along the hedge wall, maybe either along the bottom we could put this rubber barbed wire, or maybe twisted inside of the upper thorns. That's what I call them, the thorns. And then I went to look on Amazon/Google and see how much something like that would cost, but I didn't actually even get that far, because I saw in Instructables on how to make your own inexpensive, easy, fake barbed wire. Oh my god, it was genius. And so basically it involves string, paint and glue, right? And you just take the string, dip it in paint, add paint to glue, dip it in glue, painty glue, I guess is what I'm looking for. Dip it in painty glue, and then if you cut, double the length. So let's say I want 5 feet of thorns, I would have 10 feet of string. And then if you've ever done or watched wool be twisted, it doubles back on itself. So, you fold it in half and twist it, and it automatically twists into itself because it's been twisted when it was wound in the first place. So pretty much kind of how that works. And I thought, oh my God, this is genius, right? Because, then it's already gray, it's already whatever. I thought, well, instead of doing that, because I've got this whole wall, right? I want it to be bigger than little teeny tiny pieces of kite string or whatever. So I thought, well, what if instead I take sheets, right, bed sheets or something? I could just find crappy old sheets at the Goodwill and strip them out, right? And then put them in green, or I could buy them in green, possibly, if I could find them, so that would save cost on some paint. If I could find green, I'd just use that, but use green and then strip them, cut them into strips, and then do the same exact technique, right? Just dip it in green glue, and then twist them together, right? And let them dry, and this makes them pliable and the color that I need, and they'll be thicker, right? And then the way that they did the barb part in the video was they just took another piece of string, same thing, dipped it, and just wrapped it around. So, here you have everything, boop, boop, wrapped it around, and so it stuck out on both. I thought I could do something like that, or I could just take this, it would be sort of like a vine, and then I would have my wall. Man, I could just just staple gun that all the way across the wall in a cool, twisty, windy fashion. And then I could take silk leaves, of which I have no small amount, and would like to divest myself of in some way. And then just do the same thing, just staple silk leaves all along that wall, and, maybe twist in some little thorns in there, fake thorns, of course. Oh, so brilliant. I just think that that's the way I'm going to go on that. Now, I have over in that other big body bag, garbage bag looking thing, I've got a bunch of sheets, and I'm gonna first hang them up and see how many I have, because the first thing I have to do with them, if anything, is to actually make a cave for my dragon. So I have a frame, and that's one of the chores on my little list this week. Okay, I think that's good. I'm probably taking way too much time to do this. They're just gonna go in the woods anyway and get rained on and dirt all over them and trounced around and all that good stuff. Let's see. So, but I sort of want to get all of these guys painted because these are the only ones I have, and get these painted before I head off to Taco Tuesday, and then I will eat delicious tacos and drink some sangria, and that will be boo. It's sort of become this thing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. Man, no way. I'm gonna blame this on you guys, because I can. I'm going slow because I'm doing all this talking and not enough working. I probably will quit. Oh, that actually hurts my wrist. I can do it with my thumb, but it hurts to do with my wrist. That is a bad sign, man. No bueno. I don't know. So, I'm really excited. And, on Saturday, so I get down to the event site on Saturday, and I'm getting ready to, I'm in the lady who owns the property. I'm in her house, and we're talking before I get out and start working on the wood slabs, and just in through the door flies this hummingbird, and I mean just zips right over my head, so close he brushed the top of my head, and I jerked and ducked out of the way. I'm like, oh my God, what's that? Look up, and it is this cool looking little hummingbird, and he's just zipping around up there. You know, he flew in the front door, and he's now spinning around up there in the top, and he flew over my head in a circle and got me again, and then eventually, after about 10 minutes, found his way back over my head and out the front door. And I thought, well, that's pretty magical. A hummingbird just flew over my head 3 times as I was getting ready to work on my festival. I'll just take that as a good omen, right? It's auspicious. So that was pretty cool. He landed right outside the front door for a little bit to rest, and I got some really cool close-up pictures of him. And man, he was a pretty hummingbird with all his cool little tail feathers, and they were all splayed out so I could see him. And I've got a hummingbird feather a few years ago. I was at this place, and hummingbirds were kind of swarming around, and I waited and waited and waited, and one of them finally dropped a tail feather, and actually I think it was an under feather because it was sort of brownish grayish, so it wasn't all that fancy. It was probably like an under feather for their wing. Dropped it, and I picked it up,